What up, guys? Welcome to the podcast, the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, and today we're going to talk about the UFC-BJJ. I don't know why the announcer, the AI that they have reading that thing says that, but we're going to talk about the UFC-BJJ show that they just released. I think they're right now today, the time of recording, they're on the third episode.
Yeah.
So, there's some things that I say in the episode that maybe I'll be off the mark. Let me just sort of preface this with, because sometimes I get really skeptical and it sounds like I'm hating, but I'm not hating. I'm just very curious. I believe that the show is going to be really well done. The fights are going to be really good, and I'm of course watching it. But as always, I'm curious. It's like last year, like I was very curious about where the CJI was going, and just a bit, I'm not sure, whatever. And but of course, I went to it. I went and supported it. I was out there anyway, so I was like, let's go buy a ticket, let's go see it. So again, sometimes my skepticism may come across as like negative or whatever, but it's not. It's just me being a little bit, what's going on with this? And but nonetheless, I'm always supporting jiu-jitsu nonetheless, and I'm watching and doing all that stuff. So but we're going to talk about the UFC, BJJ, some things that we see, and maybe some ideas to chew on. If you guys haven't watched it, it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
It's on
Just
the
for the
UFC
matches, right?
for the matches. I mean, if you want to watch the reality show part, it's relatively short, between like 19 to 20 something minutes per episode. And we're going to just talk about that today. And if you haven't watched it yet, go onto YouTube. It's free on the UFC's YouTube channel. Go watch the UFC BJJ show. And if you watch it, and if you think that the opening sounds like AI too, let me know. UFC BJJ.
Okay. Yep.
What it reminds me of is there was a video that I saw, like it was like way back in the day where like someone was having some sort of like, this is before like the modern like language learning models, air quotes, AI that we have now. And it was like he was reading something off and someone had made some silly video making fun of something, but it was like, I'm here to do BJJ. It's like very like whatever. It was like these like two little stick figures or whatever, or two little guys talking, and it was like it was making fun of like the guys coming in to do the trial classes that wearing affliction shirts or whatever. And it was like, I'd like to try some BJJ. So anyway,
There you go.
but JJ,
Are you the voice of the UFC?
that's me. It's me. It's all out now. The secret is here.
There it is. Chewy's bought and paid for it.
Bought and paid for by Anyway, thank you guys for being here on the show. Hopefully you guys enjoy the episode, and thank you guys for listening as you do every week. And check out our sponsors if you want to. Charlotte's Web CBD, they're one of our longtime sponsors. They make amazing CBD products. They also make a lot of other products with things like functional mushrooms like reishi and lion's mane and other things. But again, as far as their CBD products, they're third-party tested. You can know what's in that on that label is what's in the bottle. They make amazing products. They're one of the OGs in the CBD space, and again, they make one of the most tested products out there in a market that's unregulated by the FDA currently. And so if you guys want to check them out, go to their website, charlottesweb.com. If you find something you like, use the promo code Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. Just in case you're curious, like personally, I use the supplement. The ones that I tend to use, I like the sleep gummy, which is a CBN gummy, and I'll take the tincture, which is a CBD like little oil dropper type thing. And I tend to take it right before sleep. Obviously the CBN, which is specifically for sleep, but even the CBD, I like it before bedtime. It's part of my like evening routine. I take that with some other vitamins and supplements and wind down for the evening, and it tends to help. Again, it's not going to, it's not going to fix the fact that maybe you're scrolling too long and you're looking at blue light right before bed. But, if you're doing all the other stuff right and you got a good sleep routine set up, it can be a nice little addition to help support your sleep. So check it out at charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. Also, thanks to our friends over at Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Oh, hold on, wait a second. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. You can go there and save 20% off the order if you want. Again, they make terrific stuff. I use them to make all my Nogi gear, which again, I personally love it. Wear it every day. They have great customer service, great designs. So if you just want to kind of browse through, maybe find something new to train in, sort of a side tangent. Anytime I like kind of sometimes get in slumps, two of the best ways to get out of a jiu-jitsu slump are to focus on something new right? To find a new area of your jiu-jitsu, or maybe something, just focus in on something. Having direction does a really good job of eliminating that fog of just boredom. And on top of that, every now and then, getting some new gear can be a kind of a nice little boost of motivation. I know that sometimes if I get some new gear, I immediately want to go wear it. I get a new gi, new rash guard, I want to go put it on. So if you guys want to check their stuff out, go to epicrollbjj.com and use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. And if you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can go to our website at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. And when you go there, you'll get all kinds of BJJ content in the back. I'm here all day. I'm going to just keep doing this. But you can go to the website. Again, it's a membership. So if you have commitment issues, it's probably not going to be the best thing for you. But if you listen to the podcast and you enjoy it and you want to support us for like almost no money, literally just like throwing out there to see if you guys are interested, you want to support the podcast, it's very cheap. But again, you get a bunch of cool stuff for it. If you want to check the perks, go to our website at patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast to get information about it. Also, if you guys want to get my daily email that I send out, you can go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. And when you join up, I will give you a focused jiu-jitsu ebook, which will go into all sorts of different strategies for, again, I talked about how to boost your motivation a second ago. One of the best things to do is to find something to focus on and get in on that and just zero in on that. It's an amazing thing for your game, both as far as skill progression goes, but also just motivation wise. A lot of times when I talk to people and they're saying, oh man, I'm hitting a slump, I'm getting bored, I'm just not feeling it anymore. A lot of times I'll ask them, well, what are you doing differently? Nothing. Going through the same old motions, right? And imagine anybody that's been married for a little bit, you've been in a relationship for a little bit. What happens when you just go through the same old motions with your wife? You don't do anything new together. It gets a little stale. You just got to have new experiences together, try new things, whatever, right? So it's the same thing with your jiu-jitsu. Just give yourself some direction, go in a direction, find something new to have fun with. And the ebook that I wrote will go through 12 different strategies on how to do that. So if you want to improve your BJJ faster, but with more focus, then go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. When you join up, you'll get the ebook, you'll get a video that comes with it, and you'll also get a daily email that comes out, and you can unsubscribe at any time. So guys, with that said, thanks for joining us. Let's get to this podcast and talk about the UFC-BJJ and our thoughts on it.
Before we started, we were going to do something else. We're going to talk about something else, but then we got into this UFC-BJJ.
No, hold on. No, it's not the UFC-BJJ. It's the UFC-BJJ. Like, if you watch it,
are you working for the UFC, bro?
Right, dude. When I was watching, I was like, did they get AI to read the intro?
It's the announcers. It sounds like
UFC-BJJ. Like, it sounds so weird because it's like we say it, it's like UFC. Or we say, BJJ, it's BJJ. That J is really quickly, not BJJ. And it literally sounds like the guys, it's like, I feel like I'm listening to AI. I feel like I'm listening to AI voice read it, right?
So we kind of saw something in the works. Like I just found out, what was it, a couple of weeks, they just kind of announced the reality show, and then now they're releasing these episodes. I think as of time of recording, there's been 2 episodes released. 3 already?
They're on the 3rd, yeah.
They're on the 3rd now. Yeah, so I haven't seen the 3rd one yet, but I've just seen the first 2, which they have.
Hold on, let me ask you a question. Did you watch them all the way through, or did you kind of like?
I did. I watched all the way through because I think one thing that the UFC does very well is they market very well. That's why they may not pay the best, like their MMA fighters may not, some may not, but you go to the UFC because the best promotion. And they have a really incredible way of building up characters and creating kind of personalities, which I think some of us hardcore, I say hardcore jiu-jitsu people that train, I'd say those, most of the people that are watching jiu-jitsu are people that train jiu-jitsu. Most of them.
Oh, 100%. Dude, I would say almost probably 99% of people, jiu-jitsu is not a spectator sport. It's not very spectator friendly.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're trying to make it that way, right? This is
think that's
where
a
like
dumb
the
idea.
reality show comes in. They're trying to make it more of like they're building some drama. You saw like some of the commercials, some guy got carried. They didn't show whose face it was, but somebody was carrying on, like
Let me
carried off.
stop
And
myself real quick because
all right,
I'm jutting in a little bit.
all right.
When I said it's a dumb idea, I don't think it's a dumb idea to make it spectator friendly. I think there's things you could do to make it more spectator friendly, but I think everybody's like trying to get the lay person who doesn't train watching jiu-jitsu. To me, it's like the best people. You have a untapped market of casual jiu-jitsu practitioners who do not watch jiu-jitsu. They train jiu-jitsu and they do not care about competitions. They don't find it entertaining. Those are your people. Right, like those are that's the market you should be trying to crack into, not trying to make it entertaining for like people that don't even know what jiu-jitsu is or how it works. There's so many people that don't ever watch jiu-jitsu who could do train.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make it entertaining. With you look at the rule set now. We
I
had
think they did some stuff right.
CJI last year, right? So Craig comes up with this 10-point must system, 3 rounds, kind of the scoring system, which is still kind of, I think, a little bit it's quite a bit subjective, to be honest, because
But I think that's a lot of times I know it sounds bad, but you think of like UFC, right? Like a fight, it's very subjective. We've seen bad decisions, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Most of them I think we all kind of agree on, but there's some bad decisions.
I agree.
But like that's something that we do with the Jiu-Jitsu Opens. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do a ref's decision or a judge's decision is because when you like, what's one thing that people hate when they go to a jiu-jitsu competition? They hate when someone gets up on points and does nothing. And so what happens when you don't know where you are with the judge's mind, right? Like you don't know where you are with them.
Yeah.
It forces you to push a little bit more, because as soon as that scoreboard says 1-0 and you're up, the pressure sometimes can be off a little bit. Whereas if it's 0-0, you don't know, and you're trying to make a good impression in front of the judges, you fight hard. You fight a lot harder than you would have otherwise. And I think you're right. They did a good job of making it a round system versus just one long match, because you and I have both talked about this. I think it's ridiculous that the ADCC and IBJJF run these incredibly long 1-round matches, like 10 minutes to 20 minutes to, with 10-minute overtimes and stuff. It would be better if you just keep it shorter bursts. And, if you want to run the match longer, then do a round system like this. And you and I were at CJI last year, and it was interesting to watch how sometimes the momentum would shift from round to round, right? Because someone was winning a round and all of a sudden they had a chance to cool down, a chance to get some breath, reassess what's going on. They would come out, and then all of a sudden the tide would change. And so you find interesting dynamics to that.
So you had that, actually, if people haven't watched, spoiler alert, the second match was Keith Krikorian against Isaac Doderlin. I'm saying his name. And Doderlin won, which I don't know. I thought he won. I thought he had some better attacks.
It was a close match, yeah.
But the first round was very close. Second round, Krikorian was just on him. Passed his guard, got into north-south, ended the round in a very dominant position that if there was a little more time, you would have probably secured the sub. So it was very close. So just kind of reset it. And so it was pretty exciting. But you said this in a previous episode, and you said jiu-jitsu were a bunch of thieves. And the UFC pretty much made a few tweaks, but really then the main tweak is to the surface. They made it rounded, and they made it kind of the octagon shape and kind of rounded, which I don't know.
A lot of the old fighting organizations, they couldn't, like the first organization that I used, right, or I went to, was they couldn't use a 8-sided cage. It was illegal because it was patented. So all the fighting organizations were using a 6-sided cage or a circle. It was like one or the other. So I fought in a 6-sided cage and a circle, because they can't make an 8-sided cage because that's the octagon. That's
right. Yeah. So they made, this octagon basically off of the CJI format or the karate combat arena. Or
well, because the karate combat started it. Craig, like they went in together and kind of like, I guess, had a patent put on it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So jiu-jitsu were a bunch of thieves, and I guess the UFC kind of stole a lot of the stuff. I think Craig was talking about how the UFC kind of took his ideas, the 10-point month system, the rule set essentially, and the surface, the arena that they're competing in.
And don't forget that they took like a chunk of the PGF roster, because like
Yeah, like half of
a
the
lot of the
roster.
guys that are fighting were in the PGF's last season,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, oh, like we have all these guys that we know are exciting. Like, let's get these guys right here, because you got like all the dudes that were some of the more exciting ones to watch, and they just like, yeah, let's come over here, guys, right? So, I mean, this is martial artists and humans in general, right? Like, you find something that works and you build upon it. It's nothing new. But yeah, they definitely took basically the CJI format with some PGF fighters plus some other people that they were able to mix in there, like ADCC trials people and stuff like that, and then throw them together.
Yeah. What do you think of the reality show component of it? I mean, the matches have been good. Do you like that sort of thing?
Well, first off, I'm curious to see. So I've got my thoughts about it. Like I've heard some people, like I've had inklings, and you see how the UFC's pushing it, right? The UFC's like, we're gonna revolutionize, jiu-jitsu with this show. And I think that's off, right? I don't think that they're gonna revolutionize it, because the jiu-jitsu is a sport that it's a different culture than an MMA. It's a very different culture than MMA was in like 2005 when the Ultimate Fighter came out, right? It's not the same type of thing. And also too, and again, I'm not pooping on it, because I actually enjoyed the matches, and I think there's actually some good to come from it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to see what their whole plan is, because from the outside in, it's just like, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to like buy up people and put them into exclusive contracts so they can't go anywhere else, and we're going to run the show. Kind of like what the UFC sort of does now, where like I think it was Phil Davis, who he has a lawsuit with UFC, and if I'm correct, the lawsuit stipulates that he doesn't want any money. He just wants to create a provision in their contracts where it's like every year they have to renew. And because if you think about it from a lot of UFC fighter standpoints, they get locked into these long-term contracts for years. And then like, let's say if all of a sudden they're on a winning streak, they don't have the option to like say, let me go on the market and see if I can get better money. But I'm locked into this poor contract that I got from years ago when I was just kind of a fighter who didn't have anything. And now I'm getting paid squat, right? And also too, let's say that you became a popular fighter, right? Like all of a sudden, can you do sponsor deals, or do you get screwed by that too, right? Because you think about all the UFC stuff where they took out all the sponsors for the Reebok stuff. A lot of fighters got screwed. But I knew several guys in the UFC who were like not at the tippity top, right? So they were getting paid essentially not very much money to go fight, but they were making pretty good money from the sponsor deals. They made more money from the sponsor deals than they did from their fight purses.
Right.
And they were hurt by that, So there's things I don't like about it. Now I'll talk about the things that I do like about it, because I don't want to sound like I'm just hating on it, but I'm just curious as to what their plan is, because you see these people it's like the UFC is going to come in and they're like, we're going to take over, and I'm like, maybe, possibly. And there could be pros and cons to that, right? Or some pros to it. But the show overall, the reality part of it, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because as of right now, it's been relatively uninteresting, because jiu-jitsu guys are generally nice dudes, like professional fighters, people who choose to fight. And that's what they want to do. And especially you go back 20 years ago, guys who were fighting with literally no clear vision as to how you're even going to make a real living at this, but you're still deciding to get into a cage and submit yourself to bodily harm. You're a different person, bro. You're a wild man or a wild woman, right? Like, you're just different. And so you think about the guys in jiu-jitsu, though, they tend to be chill. Like, you look at a lot of the videos where like guys who are like, hey man, here's my wife and my kids, and I love them so much. Like, and I resonate with that. I'm like, dude, that's it. Right. Or, hey, I really like my dog and my cat. I've got this beautiful girlfriend who I train with. There's like, it's just like, it's like sweet, wholesome stuff. And I friggin' love it. But as far as how you're going to make that into reality television, I don't know. It kind of lets you in a little bit to see who those people are, which is good. Yeah. But, if you're getting at it from like a reality standpoint, from my standpoint, I like the matches. Matches were great. But from a reality standpoint, it's like, from the average person, if they're trying to make this like just widely mass spectator friendly, there's no drama to it. Right. There's no like, ooh, like something's going to happen here. It's a bunch of nice guys who have mutual respect for one another, who are going to battle it out. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but I'm not the average person, right? Most people are like, bored, I want to see someone do stupid stuff. Whereas back in the Ultimate Fighter, you had a bunch of young guys locked into a house
with alcohol.
with alcohol, and by the way, this is crazy to me. They couldn't read newspapers, they couldn't use the telephone, they couldn't watch TV. It was like they were in like a prison, and then you give them alcohol, and you have to, everybody's got to fight everybody. Could you imagine the tenseness of that, where like your bunkmate, you might have to go bludgeon each other's face in tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's wild. So it's a complete dynamic, and so I don't think it's going to lend itself to the reality show. And then plus the coaches, it's not a compelling match. You have Mikey, who's a phenomenal grappler. I mean, he's one of the best. There's no way around it. But like the match between him and Harrison, I don't think anybody really cares. It's not a compelling match, right? It's like, oh, like most of us people probably didn't have a good idea as to who Harrison was. Maybe you saw his name.
I've never heard of him before.
Right. So some people have, some people haven't, right? But maybe you saw his name pop up at the most, but he's not on your radar as one of the up and coming best guys. And he's also doesn't speak great English, and he's a coach to all these guys. Not ideal. And if he's going to be, trying to like market this fight there, this match that he's going to have against Mikey, you want to get to like really like dig into like, let's hear this guy, whatever. So I just don't think it creates a great environment, because when you think about the Ultimate Fighter, the seasons that really stood out, it was always either you had great characters in the form of the coaches or the fighters, and they do have some good characters like Andy and Elijah Carlton. I could see those guys being pretty wild, because those dudes are that's who they are. They're fun. And like Elijah Carlton loves to play that character. He loves to play the heel, the bad guy. So I could see him having some fun on the show. But as far as the main fighters, the main coaches, it's not a compelling match, and it's not a match that everybody's like, God, I can't wait to see this one. And, so I think there's just something missing there. It's like, basically, to me, from the outside perspective, it just looks like the UFC's like, well, the Ultimate Fighter was a really good idea, so we're going to take the PGF's sort of idea of doing this week-long battle or whatever it was.
Is it? Yeah, I wonder how long they're in this house.
I don't think it was filmed very long. I think it was like a week or something long, right? So like it's a week-long battle, whatever. We're going to take that format. We're going to take this pit, and we're going to do this the whatever they call it, the octa bowl, whatever. And we're just going to like throw this together, and we're going to own Jiu-Jitsu now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what it makes me think of. That it makes me think of some like large corporate entity being like, we're just going to own Jiu-Jitsu now. And maybe that's not where they're coming from it. It's just how it feels. So again, maybe I don't know, but it just seems like someone that's kind of around in the culture, but not really in our culture of jiu-jitsu. That's just like, oh yeah, we're the UFC. We're going to like own this now. And we're going to come and buy the fighters up. And so I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. But from the reality standpoint, I don't feel like they really got the magic down to make it a compelling fight, whatever else. I'm going to watch it because I so far the matches have been good. And there's a lot of great fighters on there. A lot of good competitors. I don't think it's going to have that magic that they were expecting.
Yeah, I think they tried to get some of these bigger personalities like Gordon Ryan and Craig. They tried, but I guess just that's where the problem comes. You start getting these contracts in there, and some people maybe aren't ready. The time doesn't work for them, or there's other stuff going on. Like Craig's, got
a guy like Craig and Gordon. Why are they going to sign an exclusivity contract?
They wouldn't.
Craig's got his own thing. They make their own money. See, that's the thing. It's the differences with like a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, especially guys at the top of jiu-jitsu. They because they've been forced to, they have other means of procuring income, so they don't need you. Right. And so that's, I think, going to be an issue where like a lot of fighters, you see this from like fighters, they fight, they train, they do nothing else. And so they come to like the big show going, hey, give me money. Right. But whereas like a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, because there's not this big show that you can get to where you can make all the money you need to live on, you're looking at it from, well, how can I make money? And you find other means to do this. So the UFC can't come in there and just say, hey, like you guys have to play by our rules, because they're like, well, I can make my money elsewhere, and I don't have to play by your rules. And I think that's going to create a rub for them. Sorry to interrupt you, by the way.
No, you're good. I do agree with you with the coaches, like we were kind of talking about. I think they did a good job with Mikey as far as like, if you're trying to pick someone purely like on talent, and he was, I think Mikey had said he's one of the guys that they signed. He was like the first fighter they signed to the UFC, essentially. Mikey's as good as they come. I mean, like he's just been on a tear. Like he's doing amazing. He's so good. But for TV, is he the best like TV personality?
People
you need to have
watch for talent.
Yeah. That's all right. We do. I appreciate it. I want to watch
Sure,
him.
we
Like,
do, of course, but I'm saying
and
you're talking about spectators, like we're talking about like wider audience, like
yeah,
people who like jujitsu, who are into jujitsu competitions. Of course, we will watch people for their talent. 100%, I do it. But when you're talking about when you're trying to reach a mass audience, why does someone watch Conor McGregor? They don't watch him because he throws really nice kicks. Sure, like he's a good fighter and he whatever, or used to be a good fighter. I don't know where he's at right now, but was a great fighter in his time. But that's not really why you watched him. When you watch, when some people watch Gordon Ryan is not watched, just because he's good. I mean, he's an amazing grappler,
he's the
but
best. I would say, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, to me, he's one of the best of all time. But he's watched because he has a brash personality that he's created and crafted, and people want to see him either win or they watch him to see him lose, right? Like he's a polarizing figure where there's not
Yeah.
really a kind of a like or lukewarm. I mean, there is some of us who are kind of like lukewarm about him, but the vast majority of people either love him or hate him,
Yeah.
and so they watch him for those reasons. And so, like Mikey's a guy where he's just not. He doesn't have that strong character that you would need to make him like, hey, like you're watching this guy, unless you have already had time to build him up and like show
Yeah.
his skills, because people will watch talent if they've had time to see that talent and everything else. And so if there were other matches and then, maybe this thing had been going on for a while, then all of a sudden everybody kind of knew who Mikey was as far as wide spectators, like if that's who you're trying to build it to, then yeah. But as far as Mikey goes, as far as whatever, I think in a lot of cases it's being like, Mikey being the head coach, sometimes people, they're almost like it's becoming like they're joking about it a bit. I think I saw something from Craig posted. It was like, Craig's, trolling the crap out of him right now too. So
Yes. Well, I they're trying to they're trying to create and build a story, and like I think nobody does that better than the UFC does. They create these characters like Conor, for example. And by the way, I saw Conor give some dude at a club a 1-2 and knocked him out, so he might be in some trouble. So that's what Conor's doing now. He's beating up people in a bar, but which he's probably very good at. He's gonna be the best one out there to do that, but not probably the best idea.
But again, when you think about that, a lot of the best UFC, the most memorable UFC fighters and storylines, a lot of them happen because they had good raw material to work with, right? It's like, because a lot of times when they're coming up with the story, it's like, how can we tease this out into something, and then you have like guys like Conor McGregor who crafted a crazy personality. Incredible. And then you guys have like you have like Craig or Chael Sonnen, who, I mean, the guy created this ridiculous personality that's, to this day, it's still one of my favorites to listen to.
Chael is one of the best trash talkers. 100%. It's close up.
It's just so over the top. It's like, sorry, I had to turn my light.
Well, that's how he even talked about it. He's like, he had a decent record. He won a couple fights in a row, and like he literally talked his way. The other one, Colby Covington's another one. Colby Covington was
another guy polarized. Yeah,
he was like on kind of not really getting a lot of attention. All of a sudden, he started talking all this,
where's the MAGA
stuff,
and goes boom,
and went after it, and he got a couple title shots.
He got title shots, bro. Yeah, 100%.
But he's a good fighter. But I think he was more personality than
Well, I mean, there was that famous story. I forgot who it was. Maybe it was. I forgot who it was with, but maybe it was with Kamaru, but basically Colby Covington was like talking trash, whatever. And they said he saw him in an airport and he was so friendly to him. Like, hey, what's up, man? Da, 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 da.
Yes.
And then but on the internet forums and everything else, he was talking trash, so it's like, it was very much a character. Chael Sonnen is very much a character, right? From what I've gathered from listening to people talk about him, right? He's a pretty mild-mannered family man with his kids and stuff.
Sure.
Like he's like, we'll be out partying and Chael's going back to his room to go record videos or talk to his wife on FaceTime. But when he's on screen, it reminds me of the old football player. God, was it Deion Sanders? Primetime, right?
Deion Sanders.
He crafted a primetime, like this whole thing back in the day of this character that he was playing essentially, and he did it because the people in his position didn't make any money. And so he created a character to play essentially when he was out there. But meanwhile, the dude didn't cuss, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke. He was like, he would go home to his wife. I mean, he was like you didn't hear about any crazy antics because he was a chill guy. But on the field, he's prime time, right? So you put on this facade to distribute or to talk to people to create more attention to yourself, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think you got to have that. I don't know if we have some of those personalities in jiu-jitsu, but not a lot. A lot of people are pretty chill, quiet, just come
Yeah.
out there and there's kind of these silent killers essentially. And you have a
Right.
lot of those. So we'll see. We've got a few obviously, Andy Varela is one. He's fun. He does crazy stuff. He kind of is very acrobatic. And I'm wondering, how are they going to use the like the curved angle or the curved sides? Because when you saw in CJI, it was an
Angular.
angle, and they could kind of jump off of that. But
Right.
in the first match in UFC-BJJ, in that first match, like the guy kind of slid down. He kind of like slid down the side. It's almost like he couldn't get grip on it. So I don't know how people are I haven't seen anybody really use that curved surface. Like, they're going to figure it out, I'm sure, how to use it to their advantage. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think I'll add some different elements. The one thing that people complain about with flow grappling, I think, is the production. Sometimes the production wasn't quite, as smooth or up to par. A lot of delays. UFC's got it down, dude.
Well,
UFC has got it.
It does got it right.
And they're going to make it awesome.
Is like, people get mad about flow grappling, but then it's like, oh, you want a higher production value, but then at the same time, you're upset about paying to watch a show. So it's like, I get it. It's like, but if you've ever been involved in anything that remotely has to do with like production, it's so expensive,
Tons
bro.
of money.
It's so expensive. The UFC has all this stuff already in place because of the UFC. What's going to be interesting too is to see how they could flesh this out to be a sustainable business model, because obviously, the UFC is making enough money to support them, right? To get it started
right now. Yes. But
right now. Yeah.
Their
But
business.
but you're thinking like, okay, how long does this keep going? Because, it's fine to throw money at something for a little while, but when you're not getting a return for your investment, you're like, what do we do? And so, is it something that basically always relies on the UFC? Does this become kind of a feeder to the UFC or something? I don't know. Does it have some connection? How does that work? Did the UFC all of a sudden start mixing and grappling into their fighting organization? I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you had that at ONE FC, right? ONE FC did that, and you had some great matches, and people might be there for MMA, but they're going to get a little bit of grappling in, and I think they can do that. I think they're going to probably throw that into maybe like a fight night, or I don't know if they'll put it into like a pay-per-view per se, but I think a fight night will probably get it.
I think what they're probably up to, this is just my thoughts, is that they're probably trying to create like this big show, right? To basically create the ADCC, the big show, the Super Bowl, right? The one that everybody wants to get to, and then create like a league, of competitions, tournaments, whatever, that lead to this. So they funnel people through basically that, and I can see them trying to get into boxing and everything else, where basically you just try to create all these funnels for combat sports. Because of some of the companies that they're in league with or owned with, right? Because they're owned by a big company that they're owned with. I could see that being the play for the long term. Basically create the show, and then you create the league to get to the show, which then, that kind of thing. But at the same time, you're just like, I wonder how much they're willing to eat for a while. Yeah. Because if you're going to go through and gobble up all the fighters to pay for them for exclusivity, how
they
much
got to get work. They got to get work, right? If they can't do stuff.
I mean, they don't have to. I mean, dude, back in the day, the UFC didn't run nearly as many shows as they do, and guys would sit on the shelf for years waiting for the UFC to give them the call. And that was like something that was like a lot of fighters were really upset back in the day about, because they wouldn't have a fight, but then they couldn't go fight anywhere else. They couldn't make any money,
Yeah, I think so. With jiu-jitsu, you have a lot of options. Like, I mean, you can run like an event where it's like, hey, we have 3 title fights, which they're doing right now. They've got, Mikey is going against Harrison. I guess that's how you say his name, Harrison. They're going to have a title fight. And then you got the 2 weight divisions. So those are both going to be, title fights, and essentially, so you're gonna have 3 champions. Now you're starting to build your champions, and then you can do, I mean, like back in the day, think about back in the day in the UFC, right? You had tournaments. That'd be cool. You can do that in jiu-jitsu. I mean, people do that all the time. You have tournament format. You can have the kind of the who's number one format, where you just have just matches, and then you have title fights and super fights. But then, and here's the other thing, super fights. You've already seen some of these MMA fighters go into just grappling tournaments, and you've got like a lot of crossover. And so that's where you can get some of those MMA fans, where like you've got a guy that's like maybe high level. You know, you got like a Charles Oliveira. You know, you got guys like that maybe want to hop in and do like a super fight. So you're going to start bringing in, you have so much more reach with the UFC, so much more notoriety, like as far as name recognition, so many more MMA fighters. And it's not really a risk if somebody's kind of doesn't have a fight coming up in a while to get an MMA fighter to hop in to do like a special match or something. Those guys are grappling all the time in practice. So it's not gonna be a big deal. So they have a lot of ways to start to pull in. I think what we're trying to do is trying to pull these people in that are not jiu-jitsu people and pull them in and see if they can get them, you know, excited about jiu-jitsu, which you need drama and conflict and all that stuff. You need personalities, but
for a lot of those people.
And I think the rules for those people that are outside of, you know, outside of jiu-jitsu specifically, I think the rule set, which they kind of took, you know, from their MMA and Craig Jones and stuff, like I think the rule set's probably as good as it can be.
Well, and also to be honest, it was their rule set too. I mean, because again, they had a 10-point must system kind of thing in 3 rounds. I mean, so Craig Jones did it, but at the same time, it's, you know, it's a judge's decision. A judge's decision isn't anything new. I mean, the Olympics for a long time went to judges. It wasn't until you had like the sort of Cold War going on that we came to points, because we wanted to have something objective that couldn't be sort of, and even then, international wrestling, there's a lot of subjectivity. Any wrestler knows about Kerry Colott and how he got screwed over a ton. But, you know, one thing kind of going to it real quick that I think is like I'm not trashing, but I've been very skeptical of this whole thing, which maybe that's just my nature. But one thing that I think is maybe an interesting thought is to compare it to the parallels to both the UFC and also pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So if you go back and look at pro wrestling used to be a very fragmented sport. You had these different organizations that had territories.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, I have the Southeast territory, you have the Northeast, and everybody kind of stayed and played in their lane. And then Vince McMahon came through and basically broke all the rules and gobbled up everything. A lot of organizations were destroyed through that. A lot of people's livelihoods were destroyed. It grew the sport of pro wrestling, right? So it turned pro wrestling in from a, you know, little small sort of regional thing to all of a sudden it's huge worldwide. But a lot of organizations and a lot of pro wrestlers were destroyed in the way as they were on their way up, right? So, you know, that was the price that was paid to grow that sport. Is that good? I don't know. Is it bad? I don't know. You make the decision.
When competition is always good. Competition is always good. You want to have the UFC, you want to have that, but you also want to have, like, I mean, I know PFL is not very good. I mean, it's good. Well,
this is what I'm getting at. So like the you know, pro wrestling, for the most part, there is no other close competitor. For a while it was the WCW, but otherwise there is no close competitor. There's still some good organizations that do pro wrestling, but nothing like the WWE. Then you have the UFC, who they came on, and for a long time there was them and Pride. Those were the two biggies, right? They were kind of like, we were always curious, like those were the two ones, and every now and then you'd see a crossover between them. Very few, right? But you had, like, you know, Chuck Liddell go over there and fight in the Grand Prix and stuff. But you had these two organizations going toe to toe essentially for eyeballs. Pride fell away. The UFC took over, and since then, there's no other organization that comes close. I mean, you know, there's other organizations that do good fights, that pay all right and everything else. Other organizations have come and said, we're going to, like, turn this around and we're going to pay the fighters more money, They didn't stick around because the business model doesn't work. And the UFC, in turn, destroyed several organizations. They paid fighters very poorly in some cases, and they put them under really restrictive contracts along the way. And they built up an organization that built up MMA. You know, now there's more money to go around now. Maybe people aren't getting what they should, but they're getting, there's more money now, I guess you could say. But again, does that happen to jiu-jitsu? Do you have the UFC come through and say, all right, we're going to unite all this stuff. We're going to gain all the attention. And we're going to put everybody under these exclusive contracts. We're going to destroy multiple jiu-jitsu organizations that currently exist. And a lot of fighters that are up and coming now, we're going to basically use them up for pennies on the dollar kind of thing. And we'll grow the sport of jiu-jitsu, but along the way, maybe, you know, there's you can't what do they say? You can't make an omelet if you can't crack an egg.
Sure.
Maybe we leave some people in the dust. Or does it maintain kind of a thing where it's almost kind of like, maybe it'll be like boxing, where you have these different organizations that then will, like, you know, go with each other, like, hey, it's the WBC champ and this is whatever champ, and they're gonna fight, and let's see who the unified champ is.
Yeah.
And then you have these like other organizations that operate independently that then get together, and the fighters are able to make their own decisions because that's the difference with boxing. Boxing, the fighters can go around and say, no, I'm gonna fight this one fight with you. I'm not gonna fight a 4-year deal for this week. No, I'm gonna fight this one fight because I'm the reason people are watching, and then I'll go around, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens. But could the UFC grow the sport by taking more control of everything? And is that a good thing if they do? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's got potential to go either way. Like, my concern is the exclusivity of it. It forces people to stay with one promotion as opposed to the other. And then you don't have the best fighting the best, matches. Cause that's my concern. That's my concern. Cause I think you already see that, because I think Adele Fornerino is going to be in CJI. They're going to have like a 4-woman like tournament. But then you've got I think Fiona has signed with the UFC, and it's like, well, now like they're the two, those 3 women are probably 3 of the best right now. And so are we going to see them fight each other, compete against each other? So I don't know. That's my concern. The exclusivity piece is like you find somebody and then you kind of just have control over their career and what they can do and where they can compete.
From an athlete standpoint, that really sucks, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure like people are, hey, the UFC is great and they're going to grow the sport and you're going to be a part of it. And maybe they do. Maybe they do, right? But again, it just, when you look at the history, you're like, well, I don't know, maybe not, So I just, I don't like the idea of exclusivity contracts because, again, if you're the fighter and this is your meal ticket, you're owned by someone else.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know what their contracts
Yeah,
entail.
what they are, I don't
Like,
know.
can you do your own sponsorships? Are you still in control of, your name, image, and likeness? Like, what can you do, right? Like,
Yeah.
opposed to you're, bought and paid for. You think like the WWE back, like with that stuff, like you might be this fighter or this wrestler doing this thing, but you can't even go sell a T-shirt with your face on it.
Yeah.
Your own. And that's a rough. To me, that would be a rough place to be. And maybe it's, the money is there for them, and so they've got a number, and they're like, I'll do that for that number. Um, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot to be seen. I mean, they're doing and okay. I think the show is, I like watching and getting to know the people on the show.
I like watching you get to know them.
Which
They're nice
I know
guys.
a lot of them. We've had a good number of them on the podcast.
Yeah.
We've had Keith Krikorian on the podcast. We had Andy
Elijah.
Gorilla, Elijah Carlton. So we've had those guys. And shout out to Brandon McCatherine, man, like what he created, right? The PGF. And you've got like half of his roster over here in the UFC. That's pretty impressive too. I mean, that's awesome. Good for him. So I hope that, and PGF's going to be something that's going to be coming up too. We'll see how that turns out. I mean, I think the UFC can do a lot of stuff. They can have regional tournaments too. They can have like a kind of their big show. They can also have like these tournaments. People can try to almost win their way in to a contract.
Here's how you get here.
They've got a lot of ways they can do it. Hopefully they do a good job. Hopefully they build up jiu-jitsu and make it exciting and palatable. Obviously, I don't see them having any kind of gi jiu-jitsu. It's probably going to be primarily no gi. I think the rule set as good as it can be. The surface where they compete in is going to be more prone to action because you can't really stall or go out of bounds. We'll see. I mean, I think a lot of the pieces are there. I hope it just builds up the promotion and builds up jiu-jitsu in general.
So jiu-jitsu is a participant sport, meaning, people that watch it are participants in it. They're not casual fans who don't train it. Like basketball is a participant sport. People who never do basketball, never play basketball, watch basketball.
Yeah.
But with jiu-jitsu, I don't ever see it being a widely watched spectator sport where you just have people watching it for no other reason other than, oh man, we really want to watch jiu-jitsu. When you think about why people watch spectator sports, a lot of times there's like, let's say college sports as an example. There's a team. It's like my gym manager, Trish. Like last night, she's watching the college baseball
College World
World
Series, yeah.
College World Series because U of L's in it, University of Louisville. She doesn't care about watching baseball. She's watching the University of Louisville. That's what she's watching, right? People watch things because of characters, right? Like, again, going back to insert whatever character you've ever heard of, Conor McGregor, Hulk Hogan, whomever. It doesn't matter what that human being does. They can transport their character and bounce around, and they will find an audience for them or customers or whatever because of the character that they've created. I mean, that's just what it is, right? That's because people are attracted to characters, are attracted to people. We're attracted to those stories. And then people are attracted to the spectacle of a fight, seeing the drama that's created when physical damage is on the table. You don't have to be an expert at fighting to watch someone get punched in the face and realize, ooh, man, something's happening. This is why someone who's very casual can watch boxing, can watch MMA without knowing a lick about really what goes on in it. I've watched MMA many times with friends of mine who've never trained, they know nothing about it, who have a complete delusional sense of how tough they think they are, and they'll watch it all day long. So then you go to Jiu-Jitsu. We do have some characters who, are pretty more than not. We have a culture of being relatively humble and being respectful to each other, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. It's one of the reasons why I like Jiu-Jitsu culture better than I did MMA, because in MMA everybody's trying to put on this front, whereas in Jiu-Jitsu it's like we'll go beat the snot out of each other for 5-10 minutes, whatever, trying to spit each other, and afterwards we'll be cool. And you have that in fighting a little bit, but it's a little bit different. And then you don't have that same level of drama that's created by physical damage. Sure, people get rough with each other, but there's so many times where you're watching a match, it's very methodical. And so you have to be more well educated to watch it. And so going to let's say wrestling. Wrestling is it's a spectator sport a little bit in college, but that's not because of necessarily the wrestling itself. It's partly because of the fans who are there to support their team. They're there to support Penn State, Iowa, whomever. Not to say, oh man, I really, really love wrestling. Maybe they grow to love it, but it begins from the team aspect. So I don't know what Jiu-Jitsu offers people that would say, man, I have to watch this. And I know nothing about Jiu-Jitsu, but I gotta watch this. There's no team. There's you don't have the same level of physical drama created from the fight, and you don't have as many widely created characters that you can throw to the masses for them to be interested in. And again, this is my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but that's just the way I see it. And so that's why I keep going back to, I think your market, and if you're going to grow the sport, as far as grow the actual, when I say the sport, not people training, I mean just growing it from people watching it. It's going to be growing it to the people who train already, who don't watch jiu-jitsu competitions, which I would estimate is probably on any given event, probably 60 to 80% of them. I think it's incredibly high. Just look at the UFC-BJJ stream numbers. It's like you're getting a couple 100,000 views, 100,000 views. There's millions of people training jiu-jitsu, right? So you're they're not watching. Those are your people to get into this thing. And so if they can do that, I think that's powerful, because you can make it even friendlier to just your casual fans, but you're still going to have to create some sort of drama to get those people. Because even a Gordon Ryan, he's more widely watched than any other person because of how polarized he is. Craig Jones is watched because of how entertaining he is.
Yeah.
Right? Craig Jones is phenomenal, right? But Craig Jones is incredibly entertaining, and that's why he can do the things that he does. It has nothing to do with his skill at this point. It's people go to do something with Craig Jones or watch Craig Jones because of Craig Jones. That's the magic, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. Characters, I mean, it's the excitement of it. Like I said, most people want to see the stand-up. If you're watching MMA, they don't really want to see go to the ground. They want to see people get knocked out, kind of thing. There's a lot of challenges to it. A lot of things. So, I mean, I think if anybody can do it, I mean, you need people like Craig Jones. I think you need people like Gordon Ryan. You need people like the UFC that have the UFC that can try to market it and build it up and hopefully be more creative with it.
They've got a strong machine behind them,
They
right?
do. The
Production,
strongest.
marketing. I mean, they've got an incredibly strong, as far as combat sports goes, there's no machine stronger for building up things than the UFC does.
Yeah.
There's no question about that, right?
Yep.
100%. And so, like I said, I think they're on the right track as far as making the matches exciting. You have the right format. I mean, the CJI got the format down, and you've got great fighters on there. So you can have, there's going to be some incredible matches, I'm positive. So, it's like there's a chance for sure. Like I said, I just wish I knew more about what the long-term play was, long-term strategy was. So again, I guess I'm coming after this from the wrong angle where it's like I know the matches are going to be good. They've got a great format that's been tested already. You got great fighters that we've seen already. The jiu-jitsu part's going to be good. I'm just wondering what the long-term implications are. So I guess I came about this on the podcast maybe in a wrong way, where the show is probably going to be pretty good. The fights are going to be great. And I guess my sort of curiosity, worry, concern, interest is like, where does this go from like here later on, right?
Yeah, that's a great question for people if they're trying to figure that out. They have ideas, they can always send us some of their ideas, or maybe share some of their ideas on an episode, or read out some of their comments or something like that. It'd be fun.
What's going to happen now, right? Is like, so when originally I've already admitted that I'm wrong. Originally, when the CGI came out, I was very skeptical of like the whole Craig thing. I was like, what is going on? This is just seems like this weird troll drop. But then it turned out to be like, oh, it's good.
Well,
It's really,
I think your skepticism was about the sustainability. It wasn't like the product was like, we kind of knew there's something unique about it, but it was like, can you continue to make this type of thing to get these fighters there? And you offer them $1 million, but can you do that every year? I mean, I don't know how much they're offering now, but like more than most places.
Right. And again, it's like, but from what Craig's trying to do, he's like, I don't want to create this thing. I just want to create like the Super Bowl and have fun with it. Like, once it should make sense, but for me, like when you think about growing the sport, when you think of that, you have to like the UFC in their young days, what they did was they created a sustainable business model. Whether you like it or not, how it was done, they created a sustainable business model that allowed them to grow the sport of mixed martial arts, because before them, it just wasn't what it was. So they created a sustainable business models where other ones fell apart. And so that, like when you're talking about growing the sport, the engine behind that is the business, right? You can have great fighters, you can have all this stuff, but if you don't have the engine behind it to support them for year after year, month after month, to put them in front of people's eyeballs, to get the production of everything. If you don't have something to do that on a consistent basis, it's really hard to grow the sport, right? It's hard to get more people interested in it. And so I'm always just curious about that from that standpoint. So I'm sure some people are going to be like, Chewy, you don't understand. The UFC-BJJ is going to be amazing, and it may be the best thing ever. I just again, I'm just always kind of let's see what happens, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a lot of ifs, but I think they're doing the best job they can right now. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they continue to build these events and have an avenue for these fighters to make money. And that's the most important thing, I think, to build the sport and then give these athletes a way to make a living. That's how you get the best people in it.
What do you think about the whole thing? Like what's your ending thoughts on it?
I'm cautiously optimistic. Not my concern.
Optimistic for what?
I'm optimistic that they're going to have a really good product and just another really good promotion. Like they're going to have something we'll enjoy watching. The production value is going to be great.
It's going to be that. It's going to be all those things. I mean, it's already that, right?
My concern is that what it's going to do is it's going to two things. I have two main concerns. One is it's going to extinguish some of these smaller promotions because it's going to pull a lot of their fighters. They're going to poach their fighters. That's one. So it's going to kind of kill that competition, which I think is necessary, which the UFC does very well. Mm-hmm. Number two is we're not going to get the best fights. We're not going to get the best matchups. We're going to basically want this big matchup, but because of all this red tape and contracts, we're not going to get that. And I think one of the things about jiu-jitsu that's been great is you are going to see the best athletes fight the best athletes. ADCC was that. Then CJI, I mean, like the under 170 division was incredible. You had the Rotolo brothers in there. It was awesome. I mean, it was great. It was an amazing, like CGI. The first one was just incredible. It was stacked. I don't know if you're going to get a lot of that because right now you have the Rotolas that are signed by ONE FC. They're incredible, incredible. They're starting to create an MMA career, and you can see some of these people too starting jiu-jitsu and maybe transition to MMA as well, which you've heard a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes do that as well. So I mean, I think there's a lot of potential. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it's just more. Hopefully it creates more opportunities for jiu-jitsu athletes to get exposure, make money, make a career, and not like limit and not hinder their ability to make money. It gives them the opportunity to continue to, because that's how you get better fighters, better athletes. You get guys that come in and women that come in that like literally jiu-jitsu is what they want to do. It's not like I did this other thing, now I'm going to jiu-jitsu. It's gonna be like my goal is always to be a UFC-BJJ champion or ADCC champion, whatever it is, right? And you saw that like in ADCC, the kids ADCC championships. You had some of these kids that are just incredible last year, right? I mean, really, really incredible. And like, so hopefully there's opportunities for that. Like you start having the best athletes coming in. You're seeing a lot more of that now, but I don't know. Well, we'll see. It's always good to be like, I'm not going to be someone that's like the bandwagon person. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to be supportive, but I'm going to be kind of like, I want to just see where it goes. I mean, that's how I've always been. I'm going to support it. I've always supported like the kind of like, I've always been a big MMA fan since I was a young kid. And I do want to see jiu-jitsu, but I also want jiu-jitsu to have that. I don't want it to be like the like MMA or like WWE. I love, like you said, like the atmosphere, the tournament, like the people are really kind to each other. I think that's like, it's supposed to like MMA, like people are squaring up and like there's a lot of hatred there and like anger. And like, I don't think I see a lot of that in jiu-jitsu. Because I think the risk isn't as big. I mean, you can obviously get hurt, but like, you're not punching each other in the face.
The incentive's not there either.
Well, to hurt somebody, or what do you mean?
No, to act a certain way.
There might be now.
Well,
in the sense of like, you want to get on this show, you got to have a personality, right?
That's it. So like if something becomes more of a spectator sport and you're trying to get eyeballs, they're just, I mean, you see it on social media, right? Like if someone posts something and like I was talking to a fellow content creator about this the other day, a guy that, I'm not going to say his name. Everybody would know him, and widely popular. If we were talking about, if you post something trending or maybe polarizing, you get more views, right?
100%.
You just do instantly, because that's what the algorithm feeds people. And then it's like, do you just want to like just continue to do that just because that's what the algorithm wants you to do? And so you just have to basically get rid of any integrity or creative interest that you have and just go off whatever, I mean, like, it's just the reality. So if someone comes out and they like make a nasty post online, or if they say something really crazy on an interview, and all of a sudden they start getting lots of attention, what are they going to do? They're going to keep doing more of it, right? So the incentive structure would be there if it does become more of a spectator sport. And so it would be interesting. Let's say if it does become a widely watched spectator sport, of the cultural sort of ethos that runs through the grappling of, being a respectful, somewhat humble. I mean, like, obviously you have an ego. If you compete, you have to know that you're a bad dude or bad woman that can get out there and do it, but still remain somewhat respectful, versus the reality of spectator sports, which encourages you to be brash, gregarious, talk trash, things like that, right? It would be interesting to see how those two things collide together. I mean, you already see it in jiu-jitsu right now with like a Gordon Ryan versus the overall culture, right? And you kind of see maybe the older crowd maybe resisting a little bit, where the younger guys kind of like it, kind of thing. I don't know that that's true. It's just my gut a little bit. You know, I go off of like what I see in the gym, and a lot of like the older guys, like they like watching Gordon Ryan grapple, but they don't like his, you know, the trash talk personality. And then there's the young guys that are like kind of snickering over in the corner and they think it's funny, you know. So I don't know.
Are you gonna sell your soul, right? It's kind of like, are you gonna sell your soul? You're gonna sell who you are just for like the virality, right? Like, are you gonna make something that genuinely you don't really feel that way, or like maybe you're just a really nice person, but you create this character so that you can get notoriety, so you can maybe get on this show or make a little more money.
And I think that's okay, because guys do that and they know when to turn it off, right? Like, so for instance, again, Chael Sonnen, what he did was completely over the top, 100% just being ridiculous, right? I mean, it was like, it was so over the top that it was comical. It was so over the top, right? I don't think for a minute, like there is a, you know, that there's a distinct difference between him and I remember meeting him in person once.
Yeah.
So nice. Like, so nice. Took a picture with me, like talked to me for a minute. We were in a lobby and like randomly talked to me for a minute, and we were talking about our mangled ears. Right? Like, nice guy. When you look at, you know, again, going back to the Deion Sanders thing, right? He created a personality to make money from football, but he wasn't the guy that was out drinking and partying all night. He was the guy that went home to his family and lived a relatively introverted life most of the time. So I think you can do that. You could create a character, but I think a lot of times what people default to is just like, I'm just going to say mean stuff, you know, and then that becomes not even a character, but just becomes who you are. I'm sure I probably annoyed the piss out of someone listening. Probably.
I hope they send us a strongly worded message.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why. I don't know why it bothers me so much. It's like, I don't know about you. Like,
is it cringe?
I don't know. It's like
those announcers. Like, think about how they talk. Like,
no, I know. But like, I get it, right? It's like he's just announcing, but it's like, it just makes me think of just AI voice. And like when I listen to AI voice, like, you know, when you listen to those, if a video pops up, you know, if you're like, whatever, and it's like, it has that, like, I'm sure they're probably getting better now, but for a while it was like the same voice. Like you hear, like, he was just like, it'd be a word, you know, and here we are, and it's just this same AI voice would get used over and over again. I would instantly just turn the video off. I didn't want to listen to it.
Oh, I know what you're talking.
You know what I'm talking about? Yes, it's like this weird, like, it's a very distinct voice. I
can't buy these scissors. They're awesome.
Yeah,
you can cut paper with them.
I remember there was like a history video that I watched. I was like, as soon as I popped it up, that voice came. I was like, no, I'm not listening to this. Don't care. You know, it's like, you know, just I would rather hear a nasally human with a lisp, like, you know, than listen to that. Because it's like, it's a human. There's just something off about it, right? Like it's like AI is like almost human, but not quite. It's like, what is that? What do they call uncanny valley?
Yeah,
where, you know, we have a certain repulsion to things that
it's
aren't
unnatural.
quite.
It's unnatural.
So
something weird about it. Like, it's
so it's like
off about it.
So I guess it's that. It's like, it just sounds off because the way of when you hear someone say BJJ. The JJ part is very quick. Obviously, it's probably hard to do that when you're really trying to UFC, really announce it like that.
What's over the top? It's like over the top. It's like too much. It's too much. So
so anyway, guys,
our main concern is the introduction voice guy. If you had any complaints,
that's my biggest rub. The show overall is pretty good. The fights or the grappling matches are amazing. Like, they're great matches to watch.
I hate the voice on the intro. Yeah,
but the voice on the intro, man, come on, guys,
that's where you draw the line, dude.
So
that's it.
I hope whoever the announcer is, I hope he's not listening. Hope he's not a fan.
He might be.
Probably send me a message in like a very announcer voice. Like,
how dare you?
Yeah,
criticize my voice. I can't even do it.
Sounds like Eeyore.
Right.
I don't know.
Obviously, I don't do that sort of thing, but you know. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate you. If you guys want to check out some of our sponsors, we have a few. They have some cool stuff. It'll support you with your. I'm not going to do it with your jiu-jitsu training. Not going to do it. You
We're
can check
gonna
out
lose. We're gonna lose subscribers.
Oh, we're losing tons by the moment.
That's right.
If you guys want to check them out, you can check out Charlotte's Web. They are one of the OGs in the CBD space. They make a terrific product. Been using it for years, off and on. I don't know what else to tell you. It's a good product. It helps me with my rest and recovery. That's what I use it for. So again, supplements, they're not going to replace a diet. They're not going to replace proper rest. They're not going to replace any of that stuff, but they're helpful. And they can be used to assist you with certain effects. And again, I find that CBD tends to be helpful with my recovery aspect. I'll use the CBN Stay Asleep gummy with the sleep time. And then I'll even use the CBD tinctures. It's like a oil dropper. And I'll use that for bedtime. I tend to find I get a good effect from it along with my normal nightly routine. You can check their products out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. If you want to check out epicrollbjj.com, it's a great place to get a lot of different gear, gis, rash guards, shorts. I love their no-gi stuff. Epic Rolls' no-gi stuff is great. I have my gis right now. They're being made through them. So again, they do a lot of good stuff. They also have t-shirts and gear and fanny packs and anything that you could possibly want jiu-jitsu-wise. They have it. It's all available at their website, epicrollbjj.com. And then the website or the promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. If you guys would like to support the podcast, you can do so by checking out our Patreon membership, patreon.com/the Chewjitsu podcast. Again, it is a membership. So again, if you have commitment issues, probably not the thing for you. But if you'd like to support the podcast and, get some extra perks from it, things like extra videos that we've not released anywhere, extra podcast episodes, a chance to directly speak with us, that kind of stuff, then check out the patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. When you join up or when you go to the website, you can look at the perks. And when you join up, you'll then be supporting the podcast you're listening to right now. And if you guys would like to get my daily email, you can check that out at chewjitsu.net/join. If you like the podcast and things like that, you'll like the email. I send it out daily, goes out, almost daily, Monday through Friday, most of the time. But again, goes through everything from specific jiu-jitsu tips to just general ideas that I think might be interesting to you, but it's all over the place. Like last week, we went in from like really specific tips on framing to, I was talking about Soren Kierkegaard and one of his like books and talking about an idea from him. I mean, it's all over the place. But a lot of people read it and they seem to enjoy it. And so if you would like to join up the thousands that read it every morning or every evening, depending on when they receive it, then go to the website at chewjitsu.net/join, and I'll send you a free ebook on how to make your jiu-jitsu more focused and how to improve faster with very specific focusing ideas when you're doing your open rolls. But guys, with that said, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.